Hopefully this lighting's okay. We'll go with it. Hi everybody, my name is Blanca, and this is Park Knits. Maybe I should do a little introduction. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about my finished object, sort of a finished object, my works in progress, and I don't actually have any acquisitions at the moment, but I have some projects that I'm planning. I live in Canada, in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm a grad student in computer science. And I would say besides knitting, dog walking, so dog parks is sort of how I keep my sanity. Yeah, and originally the reason I started knitting, funny enough, is because where I live is pretty cold. Like today's a nice winter spring day and it's I think -5 right now. So I don't know exactly what that converts to in Fahrenheit, but maybe it's 25. That sounds right in the ballpark. Yeah, and so that sort of seemed fitting since dog parks is what I had in mind when I started knitting. I thought, why not call, and it's also where I spend a lot of my time, I thought, why not call the podcast Park Knits? I don't know, and I have some fun ideas. Like, I think it would be really cool to record an episode at an actual park. It's nice outside, it's sunny, and it's only like, sweater and a jacket kind of weather. Like, you don't need to be completely bundled up to be comfortable, but it's still not, let's record outside for, 45 minutes or something, you'd get cold. So I'm not going to do it today. And then I was thinking, like, one of my favorite things to do in the summer is to go camping, so go to different national or provincial parks. So yeah, we'll see if we can sprinkle some of that in there, if that's of interest to people. Hopefully it is. Yeah, so anyway, on to the knitting. So what am I wearing today? So this sweater is called the Sahra Sweater. And let me just tell you who that's by. I actually finished this maybe 2 years ago. I've had it for a little while. But the reason that I'm saying it's sort of a newly finished sweater is because I haven't been wearing it for a bit. And it's because I had this enormous turtleneck on it and I really didn't like it. So sorry, this is what it looks like. And you can see, like, it's pretty structured. So what was happening is I was getting this, like, very rigid neck that, like, stood up. And also it was just really tall. I didn't like it at all. So this yarn, let me tell you what it is. It is BC Garn's Semilla Pura, and it's a size 4 to 5 millimeter. And the thing about this yarn is it is rustic. It's not rustic to the point that you can't wear it, and that's to skin, at least not for me. Like, I'm wearing it just fine. I do have, like, a little camisole on underneath. And the other thing that was happening with this turtleneck is it was super itchy. This is a tiny bit itchy, but it's not so intolerable that obviously I can't wear it. I more just feel it like if I throw on a jacket and it kind of, like, presses the fabric into my skin. I don't know why, but that seems to make me really itchy. I'm laughing because I just caught Emma, my husky, that you can see in the back over there. I think she's panting and she's got a really funny look on her face. Anyway, yeah, for being cold, a lot of the buildings crank up the heat here without you're doing anything with your thermostat. So I think there's, like, a baseline level of temperature, and it's just a safety feature because otherwise pipes would burst. And yeah, anyway, deviating. So because I just had this like really tall and like I said, rigid turtleneck on this sweater, I wasn't really wearing it. And initially I knew that I didn't like that, but I think this was the second sweater that I ever knit. It was pretty early on, we'll say, in my knitting journey. So yeah, I initially, what I had done is I had made a slit here, thinking that maybe I could wear it like in an asymmetrical way. And I didn't like that, so I sewed it up, turned it into a turtleneck, and I didn't like that either. So now we're at version 3. And I'll say, like, this is the happiest I've been. I felt like the other 2 versions of this, when I initially made it, it was sort of a compromise where I was like, okay, like it's cute, it's wearable. Like it was almost like I was trying to convince myself that I wanted to wear the sweater, where like now I'm not doing that at all. Like I'm genuinely happy. I haven't blocked it yet since I did the turtleneck surgery. So I'm going to do that. And I was thinking, we'll see. I don't know about this yet. I was thinking I could pull this down a little bit with blocking, and that maybe that would help prevent a little bit of the itchiness that I'm getting. But even if it doesn't, like I've worn this a couple of times now since finishing the neckline. I finished it, I think last weekend. And anyway, it's not a deal breaker. It's like a little bit noticeable sometimes, but it's not intolerable. Yeah, so let me just stand up and give you guys like a full view. So it's a little bit shorter in the front than it is in the back, but it hangs kind of nicely. Like I said, I've got a shirt on underneath, so this doesn't show very well, but you get the idea. And it's got a split hem, so this is another thing that maybe I'm hoping I can fix with blocking, but for sure some of it is just the finishing on the edging is not very good. And again, it was kind of, early on into me learning how to knit, so there were details like that I just didn't know how to correct for, and didn't even know that they would be an issue. And I couldn't tell you if that was my fault or the pattern's fault. So what I'm saying is I don't know if the instructions told you how to ensure that you got a nice split hem. Because it's been too long. Like I said, it's been like a couple of years, I think, since I finished this. Yeah, so anyway, so this neck is a modification to the original pattern. As you can see, it's a raglan, and one of the reasons that I really liked it, it's because it's got this twisted rib, like these 2 lines that come down, and I really liked that continuation. I thought that looked really nice. The same thing was at the end. I think this was one of the first sweaters that I came across that had twisted rib. Like I was pretty newly introduced to the idea, so when I saw it, I was just like, I fell in love. I was like, wow, what is that? Like that's not, your typical 1x1, 2x2 rib. So I really wanted to learn the technique. And then the other change that I made is the pattern has like these little pockets right here. And I've seen this on a number of patterns, and to me, they're just like, I don't know, so impractical. They're tiny, so I don't know what I would fit in there, like a stitch marker. But then they also, like, they're right in the front, so they're like these tiny little pockets. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. So anyway, I wasn't gonna add those into my sweater. But the general foundation of the pattern, I really liked. Sorry, and I didn't tell you guys the name of the designer. So her name is Leeni Hoi, Leeni Hoi. And I'll put all the information in the description box. And because I'm new to this, we'll see how easy it is for me to embed stuff into the actual video. But if I can do that, I will do that as well. Okay, and I think I forgot to tell you guys what the color on this was. Maybe it's because it doesn't have a color. And if I didn't mention, this is 100% wool. Like I said, it's very rustic, so you probably figured that out on your own. Yeah, I wish, and as you can see, I've still got a huge skein of this and this little bit of leftover, and I think I still have a little bit of leftover in a ball from the last ball that I used for the sleeves. This for 100 grams has 350 meters, so like it goes a long way. And I'm not sure what to do with this. I maybe could make some winter slippers or something. I'm not sure, but obviously, like I mentioned, it being rustic kind of limits. Like I definitely don't want to make a toque or a beanie, because I'm sure I would get super itchy here. I have a store-bought beanie that has some wool in it, and I think it's only 20% or 30% wool. And that one makes me a little bit itchy, so I know that this wouldn't go well. So we'll see. I need to figure out what to do with this. I would really like to use it. I really like the color. Maybe just to zoom in a bit, you can see it's white and gray, twisted together, and then it's got tiny little black speckles. I think you can see one in the front here. The black speckles are pretty sparsely added in, but it creates just a really nice color, I feel like. Anyway, okay, moving on to works in progress. So let's talk about my... Oh, sorry, actually, this is a finished object. What am I saying? This isn't a work in progress. So I did a little bit of a Sophie scarf dupe, essentially. So, you know, it's really skinny at the end, and then it comes into a peak. So you're just doing increases along this side. This side stays the same, just a straight line. So what I did is I sort of had to... I lost my scale the last time that I moved, which was, I don't know. It's been months and months, and I still haven't gotten a new one. Don't ask me why. But because I didn't have a scale, I essentially had to guesstimate how long I could go before I needed to start decreasing. So anyway, I think that technically this isn't perfectly symmetrical, but as you can see, I did pretty good. I just blocked the heck out of it, and that seemed to make up for whatever asymmetry I had going from the lack of yarn. But so the reason I did the dupe, I was going to buy the pattern, not the project. I mean, for one, it's just like, to me, it seemed, is the word obvious? I don't mean that in a rude way. But yeah, I felt like the pattern seemed straightforward. And I think the other thing too is what had happened is, I think the very first project, if not maybe the second project that I started, that I didn't finish, I ended up frogging it, and it's because I didn't know anything about yarn. I had this really cheap cotton that just was like super dry, super rough to work with. I wasn't having fun, but it actually started exactly like this. It had a really skinny point. It made increases along one side, and it was in garter. The only difference was that I was making it with two colors because I had a ball of black and a ball of white. So I was making this like stripy garter shawl. And yeah, anyway, so I didn't finish that project. But when I saw this, I was like, whoa, this is a really similar version to that project. So having already made that one, it was really hard for me to convince myself to pay for a pattern that I was like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly how to make that. The other thing too is I didn't actually want exactly the length of that shawl or scarf. And it's because, I don't know if you guys have this problem. I was talking to a friend of mine. Maybe this is like a, if you live in cold weather issue that you encounter a lot more, just from having to wear scarves as more than just an accessory. It's not just like, oh, I want to look cute and wear a scarf and look wintry. Like I feel like there are days here when it gets cold. If it's windy, you really need something to cover your face. It's also a really dry climate, so just even the tiniest wind, it feels like the moisture is being sucked out of your skin. It's not nice. Yeah, so anyway, so I don't, if I can explain this. So like when I wrap this around, you can see like it doesn't dangle too far past, say like my hips, but it like goes a tiny bit just below my crotch. And so what I really, really hate with long scarves that I've had, although I love the way they look, they're just so impractical because they'll get like stuck in my crotch while I'm walking. Like really not nice. And it'll like poke out through the back. It's terrible. So anyway, when I saw the length of this scarf, I was like, you know what? I really like it, and I really liked the color that she made it in. I think actually my color maybe is a little bit darker than hers, like than the original pattern picture. And by hers, I mean petite knit, if you guys didn't already know that, which you probably did. Yeah, anyway, so the combination of those factors is why I just ended up drafting up whatever I thought made sense and just knitting it to the length that I thought was good. And I'm really happy with it. I think I finished this 3 weeks ago, and I've basically just been wearing it nonstop. And so this took up about a little over a skein, and the yarn that I used was Estelle Yarns DK. So this was on 4 millimeters, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah, and it says that it gives 250 meters or 273 yards. And it's a combination of wool, acrylic, and nylon. So it's 50% acrylic, 40% wool, 10% nylon. And this kind of gets into, I really wanted to be, we'll say, a purist. Like I love 100% wool, but I am a student at the moment, so unfortunately, this is sort of what I can afford, essentially, and unfortunately, like getting really nice wool is costly. So I have to go for this, and this is not so nice next to skin. So anyway, this is why I ended up kind of switching more recently and deciding that I'm going to be okay with using some yarns that maybe are more of a blend. What I will say is really nice is that it does have like a smoother finish to it. Like, I don't know. It's not so much the halo that I mind, and this is obviously pilled in the amount of time that I've had it, so it's a little rougher looking. But yeah, there's just a smoothness to nicer yarns. And I know that I can obtain that with 100% wool, but again, it's expensive. So anyway, like I said, this is Estelle DK, and so I think I used a little bit over a skein, so I think it was about 300 meters. And anyway, I didn't want to leave that as just like a dangling scrap. Just one more thing to worry about in terms of my stash of scraps. So what I decided to do was to make a beanie. And I'm really happy with it. Maybe it's a little bit short. Again, had to block out the shortness of it. I also made it just a smidge too big. I haven't made too many beanies, so I'm still kind of in that place where I'm trying to figure out exactly what stitch count I need. So same thing as the scarf. I made this in 4 millimeter needles. And the pattern I used was something free that I found online that was from a blog from like 15 years ago or something. But the reason that I really liked it is it has this twisted ribbing at the top. And I haven't finished sewing this guy in. So it's still kind of wonky looking at the top, but it was really cool. So it was top down, not bottom up. And just for the measurements that they gave, and the weight of the yarn, I had to kind of play around a little bit with the number of stitches that you end up in after you make all of these increases. So I think I ended up, I think you increment by 8 every time you do an increase row. And I think I added 16. So I think for the repeats of increasing rows, you do, one increasing and then one sort of correcting row and then an increasing row and a correcting row. Anyway, so I think I did 2 more repetitions of that. Yeah, but I am really happy with it. I think this is a pattern that I'll come back to. I'd like to see what it actually looks like if it were to be a little bit taller. I don't think the point is too pointy. I really don't like when, beanies are kind of like cone shaped. That sort of gives the effect that I'm saying that I really don't like. It's not my thing. I prefer to have like more of a hipstery look than a cone shapey look. It's not my favorite. Yeah, so there's a few reasons actually why I've been a little bit hesitant to make beanies. I've made a couple of other ones in the past, and I'm still I'm not quite there yet. The same is true for socks. I know that everybody that will say is like seasoned sock maker, they usually know if they need 62 or 64 or 68 stitches, and their preferred needle size and all of that. So it does seem a little bit of beanies and socks sort of seem in the same vein, where a little bit of experience, maybe that's true for all knitting, probably true for all knitting. Yeah, a little bit of experience really helps you end up with something that you'll love. Which, speaks to this, since I had to do it 3 times to get it right. Okay, anyway, now we're done with finished objects. Okay, so first work in progress. So this is a My Favorite Knits, knitwear pattern. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and it's not coming to me. And I'm knitting this on 4mm needles, even though it called for 4.5. Yes, the pattern called for 4.5, and the reason why is because the yarn that I'm using is a 4mm weight yarn, and I was trying to decide if I really needed to make that change. So initially when I cast it on, I used the 4.5mm because I noticed that a number of people that were making this pattern had used the 4.5, but the more I kind of scrutinized them, the more I realized that I didn't. So I liked kind of the airiness that I saw in the 4.5mm versions. Like that part really appealed to me. But here's the thing, and this is why I was scrutinizing more. When I cast it on and started doing increasing, I was getting these gaps, and I just wasn't convinced that I was going to be able to block that out. So I also left it. The same thing happened on this side. Sorry, let me remove my face. Yeah, so just because of that, and you can see, I did 3 rows in the 4.5, and everything else after that was the 4mm. It looks much better, in my opinion. I think I'm going to be really happy with this when I'm done, so I'm glad I made the change. But yeah, the gappiness was maybe a little too gappy. So I haven't worked with this yarn before. This is Willow and Lark's Ramble in the color white. And so because I haven't worked with this before, I just am not sure what this is going to look like after blocking. Oh, okay, I should confess. I know that I can do a gauge swatch, and I'm not there yet. What am I trying to say? I'm just lazy. what I mean by I'm not there yet is I just haven't gotten to the place where I'm willing to do a gauge swatch before I cast on a new project. I know that I should, but it's bad. I know I should have just. I didn't know anything about gauge swatching when I first started knitting. Like, I definitely didn't know about it, I think, when I made this pattern. And I want to be a gauge swatcher. Like, it seems fun to sort of have just a little bit of a, we'll say, memory of something you knit. So I just casted this on. You can see, if you've made sweaters before, then you likely know this is the back of the neck. And then I have to knit down. At some point I'll pick up for the shoulders and knit the front left and right, and then pick up underneath the arms, and then knit the rest of it in the round. So I'm really excited about this. I've had this yarn for a little while, and I'm not a huge fan of just like stark white. I love like creamy colors, but for whatever reason, I've just never been someone who wears like just straight up white. So we'll see. I think maybe because of the texture, I'll be okay with this. But it's, we'll say, a little bit out of my comfort zone. Okay, so that's whip number 1. I just realized I don't actually have whip number 2, but it's right behind me. But this is, I shouldn't even try. You guys probably recognize it. Sweater number 12, 20? I'm not really sure. And I'm pretty far on this. So I finished the body, I think, at the end of January. I would say essentially February is how long it took me to knit the sleeve. That's not true. It might have been actually more like mid-February I finished the body. But either way, I am on the second sleeve now. And honestly, the hardest part was getting the motivation to pick up the stitches and like get my brain wrapped around how to pick up stitches. So I made a little bit of a mistake, I think, when I picked these stitches up. And I'm still not sure what the mistake was. I tried figuring it out and it wasn't happening. But instead what I did is I looked at the pattern photos and I looked at the pattern itself, and I tried to match up this skinny cable right here that you see with the shoulder seam. So that was sort of my guide for figuring out what number of stitches I needed to pick up on the back side versus the front of the arm. And so when I went to go do this, rather than following, like, I still followed the exact number of stitches that I needed to pick up. It's just that I'm not sure. And I also picked up in the underarm, and I think I picked up exactly where I was supposed to, but just something about what I think may have happened is, sorry, I did this sleeve first, is when I picked up stitches down here, I knit the back of the arm first and then went forward. And I'm wondering if maybe I should have gone the other way, gone through the front part and then to the back. But I don't know if that actually makes sense. And I think that's what happened, is when I picked up stitches, it just made sense to knit in this direction. So I'm not sure. Yeah. So I don't know. I couldn't figure out what the source of confusion was, but I was confused. Yeah, so either way, so when I was doing this side, I did the same thing, is I just tried to look at where these skinny cables and then where the chunkier cables line up. And what I did is I counted these twisted points along this edge. And so, like, for example, where this skinny cable lands, I think, is maybe 4 twists down. So that's what I did. So I just came over here and counted 4, and then I knew that's where this next skinny cable would land. Okay, so I need to finish the sleeve on this. I still don't know what I'm gonna do about the neckline. So this pattern has a really thick ribbing, and I've put this on a number of times, and I feel like the V-neck, the way it sits right now, is actually really flattering. I expect that this is going to widen with blocking. Obviously it's cables, it's really, scrunched in right now. So I know that most likely, like, it's in my best interest to do some amount of the ribbing. But just having tried it on right now and having looked at like where, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head exactly how thick that ribbing is, but let's say it's 2 inches. Like where it hit kind of leaves you with like this much of a V-neck. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence. And it's funny because I noticed that a lot of the other projects, maybe people were struggling with the same things or same thoughts as I am, because I noticed that there's a lot of modifications on the neck. Like some people just made it thinner. Some people did a thinner and not, I can't remember the term, double folded neckline. So the original pattern has you fold it. So some people didn't do that. They just got to the edge and cast it off. Some people have done no ribbing and just left it like this. I think that's where that idea came from, is from seeing some of those. So yeah, decision to be made, but putting that off until I finish the sleeve. I think what I'll do is I'll finish the sleeve, I'll block it, I'll try it on, and then depending on where this neckline hits, then I'll make a decision about exactly what to do about the neckline. We'll see. Okay, so let me just tell you what kind of yarn I used for this. This was also the first time, I think all this yarn that I'm using is the first time I'm using it. So this is Pearl Soho's Good Wool. And this is the color Dark Spruce. So I'm pretty sure this is also 4 millimeters. 3.5 to 4 millimeters is the recommended needle size. So US size 4 to 6. And this is also a really generous skein. For 100 grams, you get 383 yards. I would say one thing, so I am really liking it. You can see like the color is gorgeous, but like a lot of we'll say not as luxurious yarns, it is a little bit toothier, and so I'm a little bit worried that it'll be comparable to this in the itchiness. So maybe it'll be the sort of thing where, same thing, I need to make sure that I wear just a light shirt underneath, and then that way if I have a jacket on, it's not going to be too itchy. We'll see. But I am just, the other thing too is I haven't blocked this, so I'm really curious to see what this looks like with blocking as well, because you can see like the skein looks really nice, but something about once I started knitting with it, it looks a little bit more rusticy, more toothy, more hairy. Yeah, so I'm curious to see what this looks like once it blocks out. I'm hoping it'll look more like the actual skein that I bought, because this also, like, it just has a softer, fluffier feel to it. Yeah, I think it really is because the yarn is so like cinched in. from being knit. It just hasn't relaxed. So we'll see. It'll be, you know what? I'll do a before and after photo to see exactly what it looks like after it blocks. I tried to add stuff like that into my Ravelry project pages, but it's so hard to remember sometimes, you know, like especially with something like this. I think I'm going to be so excited when this is done, that I'm just going to want to, you know, throw it on and who cares, wear it out. Okay, so that's another work in progress, and I think, yeah, that's the end of my work in progress. And the one project that I wanted to mention is, so last winter, or this summer, I don't know, I gave away some stuff to Goodwill, and one of the things that I gave away was a black beanie that I had. So I don't have a black beanie right now. And I just, like, I find myself constantly thinking, you know, I'm reaching for a beanie to go out the door. And I've just found myself a lot, especially the last few weeks, saying, like, why don't I have a black beanie? This is, like, such a staple, I feel like, in my closet. And it's just because, like, I have one really bright orange jacket. So I don't want to wear, like, a million colors. So I feel like a black beanie would go really well with that. And then I also have a black jacket, and sometimes it's nice to just, you know, be a little bit more muted with your wardrobe, not so attention-seeking. So yeah, anyway, I bought one of my local yarn stores, Statement Junkie, was having a sale maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And this really nice yarn, so this is called Lamana. And this is 50% wool, 25% silk, and 25% polyamide. So this was originally $14, but I think the price that I bought it at was maybe $8. So really, really nicely priced. And this calls for 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter needles for 100 grams. So I was thinking, like, because of the softness, I really feel like this would be a nice beanie. Technically, this is the black color, and I think in the camera it mostly looks black. But I would say, to me, like, when I look at it, it has more of a blue color to it. I'm on the fence about this. I feel like I'm leaning more towards not doing this. I have this skein of Sheepy's Worlette, I think is how you say that. And this is 60% cotton, 40% acrylic, so just really different. But it is so thin that I was thinking maybe it wouldn't matter, that I could get away with combining the two of these and making a beanie that way. Maybe you can see the color difference that I'm talking about a little bit more if I just show you the two of these together. Yeah, this just looks a little bit more blue. Maybe also in this light where it's a little bit more blown out, it looks a little bit more blue-gray. Yeah, so see, this is why I should start doing gauge swatches. Then I wouldn't have to guess about this, and I would know, how does this compare to just this guy by itself? So I have 2 skeins of this, and let me see what the meterage is on this. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know. I hadn't come across this yarn before. They don't sell it at the other yarn store that I frequent. That's the yarn store that I've been to the most. Statement Junkie is a little bit further away from me, so it's more of a drive. And it's kind of like out of the core of downtown Edmonton, so I feel like, because I don't live in downtown, but I live just adjacent to downtown, what I like to call the suburban urban space. So, you know, like, there's a coffee shop to my right and a coffee shop to my left, and like 3 blocks north, There's a grocery store down this way and another one 3 blocks north. So like everything is really walkable, but there aren't like huge glass financial district type of buildings around me. So that's why I say it's not really downtown. It's more like lower density buildings, 3-floor, 4-floor, 5-floor buildings. Yeah, and anyway, so because Statement Junkie's a little bit further from downtown, I think that's one reason that I tend to go to the other store. That place is called the Fiber Nook, and I love that store. Recently they expanded it, so they just have more yarns now. More things to tempt me. So I think I was looking for the meterage, but I can't find it. Oh, 200 meters right here. 200 meters for 50 grams. So with 400 meters, I feel like that's definitely plenty for a beanie. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking, you know, maybe this would be a bad idea to crack this open, because if I do that, then I'm going to use a portion of this and only some of this, and maybe I'll end up with like 25 grams of this one. And like, what am I going to use that for? You know, there's another sweater that I've been eyeing for I don't know how many months. I can't remember off the top of my head who the pattern maker is. But I know it's got stripes, and rather than them being solid stripes, they're kind of like speckly stripes. And I was just thinking, and the pattern photos are like a light, is it this color? I think it's more of like a yellowy creamy color, or like an oatmeal color. And then the stripes are in black. And I was just thinking like these would go really well together if only I had more. I don't think I would have to hold this double, I guess, in order to do that. So that would only give me 200 meters to be able to do the stripes. I don't know if that would be enough. And I don't think I have enough for a sweater's quantity with this. But I could buy another one. No, I think I'll stick to my original idea. This is such a nice yarn. I don't think I've purchased any yarn with silk in it before, so this will be a treat. Yeah, so I should definitely keep it for a beanie. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I don't know what the frequency of my posting videos will be. I'm thinking maybe once a month. I don't think I knit as quickly as other people do for me to have, you know, a sufficient amount of content to be posting every week. But if I can, then I will. So we'll see. No promises yet. I'm just getting started. I'll see where this takes me. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.